Hey YouTube, it's me, Brandon Colonel. I'm actually just now kind of testing out this new way of taking videos. I finally got my first smartphone, and so I'm seeing how the videos on this take, so that way, if it turns out good, then I'm just going to continue using my phone for all of this. So, on to the review. I finally got my first sword, and not these kinds of swords back here. These are all display. And I'll show you what I mean real quick. For one, if that doesn't tell you that it's fake just in and of itself, there's nothing on here that's going to tell you that it's fake. I mean, you can barely even see the bevel going downward. I mean, it shows up, but it's very difficult to tell. But no, the sword that I actually got, which this is another piece, but this is meant to be display only. But the actual sword that I got, it's my first working sword that I've ever bought. And it's by a company called it Musashi, which for whatever reason they're transitioning the name into Musha, if you've ever heard of them. So if you've heard of Musha, you know of Musashi as well, because the company is the exact same thing. So, without further ado, this is just simply the case that it comes in. The case itself is just absolutely stunning. I mean, this is not just cardboard. This is like an actually like a cloth-lined case, and it's actually got cushioning on the top of it. So just the case in and of itself is stunning. And it's got these 3 clasps, and it's got a really nice handle that you can clasp onto, and the third clasp down here, and these just simply swivel out of the way like that. So let me get this thing open real quick. Okay. And inside, let me get my phone here for a better angle. Okay. Inside, you see the sword, there's a cleaning kit, and there's the birth certificate right there. Let me resituate my phone here again. There we go. So, really nice, just on the inside of the case alone, along with the outside of the case. And now, to start off with, as far as what's inside, I'll show you the birth certificate. It comes in this. Then it has more writing over here, which it actually looks like it's been stamped right here as well. And on the inside, here's the certificate. It says Musashi Gold Series Certificate. The name, Masaru. Overall, 41.5 inches. Blade length is 28 inches. Handle length, 11.5 inches. Blade size, 1.25 inches. Tsuba size, 3.25 inches. Blade HRC, 58. And mark is in Japanese, so that I cannot read. Materials and way of forge, it is a hand-forged 1045 plus 1065 carbon steel, meaning that this is made in the original way of Japanese forging, which is where they actually combine 2 different types of steels in order to get the best of both worlds when it comes to hardness and softness. It's kind of like their yin and yang in the Japanese culture. So that way they have the hardness of the edge, but they have the softness to be able to absorb all the impact on the spine. So the 1045 and 1065 carbon steels mixed together is what allows that to happen. And it's also been folded, I want to say 11 times. Excuse me. And with that folding creates about 4,096 layers. And it has the real clay-tempered Damascus blade. The Hamon and Hardness 58 HRC were created in the temper process. Real rayskin wrapped grip and white cotton cord wrap, two-tone oxidized brass tsuba and fitting, scabbard lacquer, white high gloss with black Sageo wrap. And then the date of production is in Japanese, serial number 24683, created by Stuart Lee. So this in and of itself is a really nice collector's piece, so that way you know everything about your blade. And if you can read Japanese, more power to you, but that also means that you know a little bit more about it, because there's things in here that I can't read. Okay, now, on to what's in the cleaning kit. I'm saving the best for last. There's this little piece here, which, by the way, if you can't tell by now, I got a katana. But, yeah, it has this little thing, which is the little hammer and nail type thing to get out all of the bamboo pegs that are in the handle. You basically just take this little piece out, put the small side on the peg, and then you just simply hammer it out until it's gone. So, I've already taken it out once, which was a pain in the neck, but for some reason I can't get the sword apart. It's like they super glued it together. Which, excuse me if I don't know what all of these things exactly are, because it's the first time I've ever dealt with these. It also comes with this little device right here, which I don't know exactly what it's called, but it's meant to, after you've put on some of this oil to make sure that your blade doesn't rust, then you take this and you just kind of rub it over the blade, and then it absorbs all of the excess oil. So that's actually a problem that I've had with my knives before whenever I was trying to oil them. So this is a really nice touch. It comes with a special cloth, so that way you can make sure to clean off your blade. And it keeps it in its own little casing, so that way it doesn't come unraveled all that easily. And it also comes with these strips of paper. They called it rice paper, but it just feels like a Kleenex. So, well, there's other kits that I was looking at that said rice paper, and this is basically the standard kit that just comes with all the swords that you would find in TrueSwords.com. Which also, since I got it at TrueSwords.com, one thing that I want to brag about as far as their customer service is I actually called them a while back before I actually placed my order, and I was calling them to find out if they sold replacement bamboo pegs, just in case my sword came loose. Because with all the research that I've done into katanas, one thing that I came across is that over time, with extended use on the blade, then the fittings can all come just a little bit loose. And typically it can be fixed by one thing, and that's replacing the pegs. And so I wanted to have the pegs now, instead of having to wait somewhere along the line and not having them at that point in time, and then being unable to use my sword because I don't have the pegs and I won't have them for like another 2 weeks. So I asked them right then and there if they sold them, because I couldn't find them online, and I wanted to just get them all in the same place so I didn't have to worry about it coming in separate orders. And wouldn't you know it, the guy that talked to me was like, for one, we've never heard of that before, but people do call and order these all the time. Thing is, we don't sell them. We give them to you. So he just simply told me that if I wanted to get extra pegs, when I placed my order, just simply ask it to have 2 extra bamboo pegs put in your to be put in your order. So he sent me these 2 extra bamboo pegs for free, just because I put a comment in the on my order saying I would like you to add 2 bamboo pegs for my katana. So, if you guys ever need any kind of a working sword, if TrueSwords.com sells it, buy it from them. They're phenomenal dealers, and you can trust them greatly. Now, on to what we've all been waiting for. The sword itself. It comes in this this black cloth. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. Why do I always get the hiccups during a video? And that is the worst time in the world to get the hiccups, but I always form them. So it comes in this black cloth bag, and with this this wrapping that's attached to it. That you just simply undo that. The tsuba is pretty big on this thing, at least bigger than katanas, than display katanas I've had in the past, so it's a little snug in there. But this is the Musashi White Falcon Katana. 11.5 minutes in, and I'm just now getting to the blade of the entire purpose of the review. So, as you can see, there's a reason why it's called White Falcon. But there's also a reason for being called Falcon. The entire motif of this is a falcon, as you can see on the manuke. It's got one here, and it's got one here. Let's see. This is the tsuba, and here it is on the back. It's got a little bird here too. And then there is another falcon, which this is. I'm trying to learn all the names of the pieces. This is the Kashira, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's basically all of the decorations. This is a real ray skin handle with a white cloth and cotton cord wrapping. Now on to the blade itself. That is a real hamon line on here. And you can actually see that it's been mirror polished on the bottom. The top portion, because of the hamon line, it actually won't accept a mirror polish. Which actually, if you do manage to put a mirror polish on it, you get rid of the hamon line. So, for those of you that have katanas, but you don't really know how to maintain them properly, then if you've ever tried to sharpen your own katana and you've gotten rid of that hamon line, the way to actually restore it is take lemon juice. Take some lemon juice and a little bit of sandpaper. Put the lemon juice on the sandpaper and start rubbing it on the hamon line, and then it'll start to rust the blade a little bit. At which point, once you finally rub it all off, then essentially what it's done is it's acid etched the blade, and so you take off the rusting, and then there's this one video that I saw that explains this in full detail, because I am by no means a sharpening expert. It was actually while I was looking for sharpening videos that I actually came across this. You can basically just look up how to sharpen a katana, and you'll come across one video that's about 25 minutes long. It should be one of the first videos to come up, but it'll show a guy using some kind of a marble slab to sharpen his katana. Look for that one, and that'll show you how to restore the hamon line, how to sharpen your katana. It'll basically tell you how to do everything. So I highly suggest looking at that. I honestly don't remember exactly what the video is called. I may annotate it somewhere if I remember to look it up sometime. But yeah, so And this is a working katana. You can end up here. Let me actually pull this for a reference. One way that you can actually tell a real katana is there's a different grinding pattern on the kasaki, which the kasaki is the tip right here, from about here to my finger. That is the entire kasaki. As you can see, it's the same grinding from the top to bottom. Whereas on this, the kasaki is clearly different. The kasaki is actually a little bit higher polished than the bottom portion. This portion right here is still a mirror polish and this is not, but this is clearly polished differently than this. And that's one way to tell a true katana, is just simply how it's been sharpened. If the tip is different, you know you've got a little bit higher quality. It may not be completely the highest quality, but you can definitely tell that you do have a higher quality blade. The hamon line is another way to tell you've got a really good quality blade, but it has to be a true hamon line. This has been sharpened onto the blade, which this is the other fake katana. They just basically, in order to make this, they actually have just a piece that they put over top of this with these little rivets, just to kind of cut into the piece they put over top of it, and then they put one line down a grinder, and then it just simply does that. It puts the lines on there. So they've got this polished, and then they have a really high grit grinder that does this. So that's how you get a fake hamon line. How you can tell a real hamon line is, for one, it's very uneven. Now, it's not really coming in all that well, but you can see that there is a hamon line on here. So yeah, it's very uneven. And so, one thing about the hamon line, when it comes to true Japanese culture, is that the hamon line can actually reveal a little bit about the maker. Say the maker lives in the mountains, then the hamon line might have a few more peaks and valleys than another maker's hamon line. If the maker maybe lived close to the water. There we go. If the maker maybe lived close to the water, then the hamon line may be a little bit wavier. And yet there's also makers who maybe stared at the sky for a little bit too long, and they became obsessed with the sky. The hamon line may be a little bit straighter, actually, to kind of symbolize the wind. And just different things like that. There's different things that can symbolize who the maker is by the way the hamon line is made. And so there's no two hamon lines that are ever going to be the same, because a hamon line is made through a clay temper process where they actually put this special type of clay on the back end, and so that way when you quench the blade, then you put it down in water or oil or whatever the blade is supposed to be quenched in, and then at which point then everything starts contracting, and the parts that are covered in clay are going to contract less quickly, at which point they can retain some of their malleability, or for those of you that don't know that word, bendability. They retain their ability to bend. And so, the edge cools very rapidly, so that way it gets razor sharp and hard. It gets very hard. The harder something is, the keener the edge it can take, because it's going to be stronger. Now, when they actually temper it, after they quench it for the first time, there's two steps. There's hardening, and then there's tempering. The hardening is where you initially put on the clay, to make sure that the Hamon line gets on there. But after that, then you temper it as well. And if I'm not mistaken, they also put the clay on there for the tempering as well. But I could easily be mistaken about that, so don't quote me for that one. But yeah, so that's how you get this beautiful Hamon line, which, like I said, is the showcase piece of a katana that is truly made in the Japanese fashion. So this is just an absolutely gorgeous blade, and honestly, I am very happy with it. It is incredibly balanced, and I am just thoroughly impressed with it. By every means, I am thoroughly impressed. The handle is adequately sized. By the different things that I've seen about katanas, it is a little longer than most katanas typically are. But it's only longer by about maybe 1, maybe 2 inches, I think. Most standard katanas, I think, are about 25 to 27 inches. I think this is 28 inches. Let me actually check on that birth certificate again, because it actually says it in there. Yeah, 28 inches overall length. Oh, blade length. And so yeah, this is over by 1 inch. So that's not really all that big of a deal. But if I was going for truly traditional, I probably would have been a little bit more of a stickler about that. But I was looking more for a blade made in the traditional techniques, not so much the traditional size. But I have already used this to cut with, and I should say it is a phenomenal cutter. Just effortlessly cuts through whatever you put in front of this thing. There's not anything in the world that's going to stand between this katana and basically the other side of what's on it. But as long as it's actually meant to be cut, this thing's probably going through it. So yeah, I'm not going to claim it like all the katana fanboys out there and fangirls out there, because I know there are some. I'm not going to claim that it's the sharpest thing on the face of planet Earth, and that it can cut through metal rods, and it can cut through trees in a single slash, and if it was only long enough, it'll cut through the very core of the Earth. I'm not claiming that. In fact, I reject that statement. Katanas, at the end of the day, they are just a sword. So if you're expecting the katana to be the ultimate best sword in the world, if you're expecting them to be the ultimate for everything, every situation, you're going to be sadly mistaken, and you're going to be very, very disappointed in this sword. It may be majestic, and it may have a large and very long and rich history behind it, which is honestly the entire reason why I like katanas in the first place. As I've said in previous videos, the katana has been in my life for a very long time now. Ever since I was old enough to know what a blade was, the katana has been in my life. Let me get this up. So, I've had toy katanas since basically birth. One of my favorite shows as a kid was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Reason being, a few, not all of them, but a few of the shows back then portrayed Leonardo as holding katanas. Some of them portrayed Leonardo as holding ninjakin, which is essentially the straighter version of the katana that was made by the ninja. But there's not really any consistency with it, because some display him as holding a ninjakin, some cartoons display him as holding a katana. I never really went into the comics, which I know that there are a lot of people who did, but I don't know what they did. So yeah, the original may be katana, the original may be ninjakin. I honestly have no idea. But speaking of which, I have not shown you guys the updated version of the ninjakin that I showed you guys earlier. I showed that to you about sometime last week. Let me get the completed version. There were two swords that I was restoring recently. And one of them was this katana, which is display only. There's nothing about this that's actually usable. But I have mirror polished the blade, and I've got to say I am very happy with the way that this thing turned out. And which I'll actually have to touch it up again today, because my mother had a bit of a problem with a cockroach in the bathroom, and the cockroach got behind the toilet. I had to find something long, slender, and skinny to get behind the toilet. And wouldn't you know it, the porcelain scratched up my finish, so I've got to refinish that blade. But on to my ninjakin that I've officially finished. If you guys will notice, I have completely rewrapped this handle, which I think that might have actually been rewrapped during the video, but I have also rewrapped the scabbard. Now, something else that I did was I completely polished up all of the brass. So the brass has a really high satin finish. And I also heavily polished the blade. The blade, you can also see yourself in, but it's not even close to a mirror polish. This is a really high satin, though. And I am thoroughly impressed with this. So, that just simply showing that to you guys. So, that was just a side note. But, yeah, so more on just my history with the katana. Which, I'll just keep my real katana in the picture now. Excuse me. But yeah, so the katana has just always been a really big portion of my life. I've just always been really impressed by its history. The thing it originally drew me in was the sharpness. I'd always seen all of the cartoons that have katanas in them. I'd always seen the movies where katanas were being portrayed. And they always just seemed like this magical weapon that could cut through anything. And in all of the cartoons, people were using katanas to cut straight through metal. And they just cut through everything with ease. And so that's what originally drew me in. And of course, like everybody else, I fell into a lot of the hype. There was some hype going around that said that the katana never needed to be sharpened for the entire length of the samurai's life. That the katana just never needed to be sharpened. And that in and of itself is false. I found that out very quickly once I actually grew up. Yeah, the katana does need to be sharpened, so whoever started the rumor that it doesn't need to be, disregard that, because they're an idiot. But I had also heard that it's nearly impossible to break a katana, that the katana is meant to balance directly on the tang, and just all this and that, and people who think that don't know anything about a katana. Because for one, if a katana was meant to balance at the tang right here, for one, there would be no power in the swing. In reality, the katana balances more along right here. Just find, there we go. Yeah, a little bit off. I will find this eventually. Okay. There we go. So yeah, the katana is meant to balance about here. Reason being, it makes it a little bit more blade heavy, so that way when you're going for a slash, you've got a lot more power behind it. But yet, this